All right, hello everyone. Hopefully you can see and hear me. I thought we could take a page from our friends who work in schools and do a quick brain break together. So if you're able, stand up. If you're not, do it where you're sitting. And we're gonna do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready? The idea, if you haven't done it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then each of your feet, one at a time, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. We're gonna do it together. Are you ready? Take a second to get up if you're able. Sit if you're not. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 1, 1, 1, 1. If we were all together, we would definitely applaud. And now just sit back down if you aren't already sitting. And if you have a second, type into the chat just something that you're feeling right now, something that you've learned, something that you're carrying with you to the end of this day. Loving seeing these come in. I started my day with hope. I heard from people equity and joy and inspiration and possibility. And I'm seeing now so much of that, but really the next level of it. What happens when you bring in all of that and then together learn in an environment of mutuality, where we aspire to mutual thriving, where we come together closer to help to build something new. And it's really with that spirit that I'm so honored to get to introduce 3 of our brilliant and empathic speakers. Keep those words coming in. But let me introduce them quickly to you, though you've had a chance to hear from them. Billy is a biology-inspired storyteller and designer. Over the last 4 years, he has been traveling around the world, exploring how biological strategies inspire solutions to human challenges through biomimicry. He's the co-host also of Little Giants, a new TV series on animal planets that if you haven't had a chance to see, you should definitely check out. And it features some of his explorations. Meanwhile, Curtis Ogden and Karen Spiller are mavericks in cultivating a network to ensure food sustainability in New England, centering equity in all of their work. In his day job, Curtis is a senior associate with the Interaction Action Institute for Social Change, and Karen is principal of KAS Consulting and provides mission-based consulting for health and equity-focused initiatives. I hope you got to hear their incredible talks. And I wanted to also acknowledge 2 of the speakers who are not here with us in person today, but whose talks you hopefully found in the expo and can continue to come back and find. Dr. Saira Mahad heads up the system-wide Special Pathogen Preparedness and Response Program in New York City. She committed to being a speaker long before this pandemic, but since the pandemic struck, she has been on the front lines of the COVID-19 response for New York. She wanted to let you know, and I'm speaking here for her, that she is passionate about the critical role STEM educators play in preparing the next generation of leaders to solve major global challenges. And the systemic, as it so often does, has actually become personal, as Dr. Mahad is currently recovering from COVID-19. We have our thoughts with her and miss her today. And Frank Spencer, the founder of Kedge, is a futurist who excels at supporting leaders and organizations to develop a future-empowered culture. We're so grateful that he shared his wisdom as we think about how to balance meeting immediate needs while preparing to reimagine and then rebuild a new, better, and more equitable future. These talks are here for us to continue to nourish us, and it's my pleasure to get to welcome onto the stage Billy, Karen, and I hope it will work for Billy, for Karen, and for Curtis. So come on while they're doing that.
Hi, I'm just gonna pop on to Billy to turn on his screen. Really?
I can see you all.
That's good. We can't see your face yet, but we can hear you.
Okay, let's try this.
Then Karen. All right, here we all are. So folks have been texting in their phenomenal questions. And before we get to them, I thought we could give everyone a chance just to say hello in your own words, since we're all here live together. Billy, do you want to kick us off?
Greetings, teachers of Earth. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and in your presence, lurking in the comments. As someone who's very passionate about getting students, especially students of color, engaged in STEM and STEAM fields, I'm very excited and very humbled by this opportunity to be with you all and learn from you all. And I look forward to continuing the conversation after, as this flock continues to grow and be dynamic.
Okay, I can't hear you, Talia, so I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. And just I wanted to say I've got Karen here in my hands. We've had some issues with her coming on the video, but so Karen, you get to go next. So I just wanted to say likewise, hello. I had the pleasure of attending the opening plenary, and that made my day just to hear Talia's words and to watch the chat. And at one point I chatted in teachers plus networks plus equity plus love equals 10 exclamation marks. And I think that really just captures it for me as a son of educators, as somebody who supports networks to realize sustainability and justice. Feels like these are my peeps, and so glad to be here. And just had an incredible conversation with Billy that I hope we can continue. So reaping the rewards already. And I'm gonna hand you, almost literally, Karen.
Yes, and Karen, we can see an image of you even if we can't see you live. You're here in many ways.
Okay, hello everyone. Hello. And I am thinking about when I first came to New England in the middle 90s. I came to work with an organization that was working nationally on equity for our children, so that we would be able to see the best in them, provide the best for them, and create the space for them to be on the edge of learning, on the edge of curiosity, and having all of that opportunity. So being with you today is kind of full circle for me, back to that reason why I came to New England, for our children. I always believe the health of our children is demonstrated by the health of our community. And I am very honored to be here with you in voice and in spirit.
We feel your spirit and hear your voice. And I really think for all of you and for the other folks who aren't here at the same time, this sense of shared purpose and the themes that have emerged across your talks of what is possible when we come together and work in collectives is permeating all of this. So let me share a few questions that we heard already. For Billy, to start. Karen Warner and Melissa Tebow asked a question that was very similar, and they said, the common starling, you talk about it, there's no lead bird, there's shared leadership, and dynamic shifting is needed. How might this work in a school or in a community of schools, what we call districts?
Yeah, I think, for me, when I was thinking of the murmurations and the flock, I think some of those elements goes back to the bees part and speaking about, the malleable framework of the hexagon shape, and the fact that each of you have that core understanding of one, what is it that the students need, but also like what are those core things that each student has to be able to have, but knowing that each student is different and knowing that each circumstance, especially now in this, coronavirus world that we live in, is different. Being able to find ways to make and take those core elements and make them as malleable as possible to reach those students, I think is where some of that comes into play. And I also know that the education system is by and large, there's a very certain framework as was discussed in one of the conversations around standards. But I also think as we go forward into this future where you have millions of students who are learning from digital classrooms and are learning from TikTok videos and YouTube, that there's a lot of questions worth asking around what is the ultimate end result. Is it more about the method or is it more about the subject matter? And so when you have certain people who have identified really efficient ways to communicate and translate knowledge to their students that are outside the traditional methods, those can then become some of those leaders in that environment of reaching those types of students. So now is the time to really kind of identify who are these teachers who have a certain strength in reaching these types of students, what are their methods, and what is my core that I can make malleable to fit into whatever strategy that they're using.
I love that. How do we learn adaptively from the exceptions that can teach us so much about how to make the rules better? To Curtis and to Karen, but also really to all of you, a question from Clea Masson. How can we stay malleable and flexible? What are the aspects of life or education where malleability and flexibility are most valuable?
A beautiful question. Karen, do you want to offer something?
I would say that in that spirit, it's really looking for the things that are common. I think the things that are shared, so that you can adapt and can expand those things. And I think particularly you were hearing a lot of that in our talk about the importance of living together, but again, the shared values, the shared commitment, and getting the relationships. So when you're talking about the people in the school, in your department, really beginning to dig deep in understanding that, as Billy said, the gifts, the talents, the skills that are there, and build beyond that and build upon and through that.
And I would just add that, we talk a lot about network science at Food Solutions New England, as well as at my Interaction Institute for Social Change. And a lot of the talk about networks tends to gets obsessed with form and shape, which I think is very cultural, when the vitality of networks is actually what's moving, what's flowing. It's the nutrients, it's the information, it's the ideas, it's other kinds of resources. And so one of my personal passions is to try and get people to think in terms of flow. Let's think in terms of flow, that we are beings of energy, exchanging energy, imagining ourselves as members of ecosystems engaged in constant flow, I think can move us to that natural malleability that evolution demands of us.
Amazing. Actually, it's a perfect segue to a question for Billy, but we might come back to you, Curtis, and to Karen. Billy, David Barnes asks, he notes that what's striking about the birds is this, you're never the leader or the follower, and so you need to always be paying attention to those who are close to you. He was wondering if you have any examples that you've seen in education, and I'll add, or really anywhere else in the human world, where we have taken a page from this paying attention because you are both leader and follower at the same time.
This might not be the most well-versed person to speak to this, but there's actually the thought that actually came to mind was actually the civil rights movement in terms of answering that question. I think it was the visual in my head is actually of the March on Selma and the locking of arms, but also just how all of these different networks came together in different ways. They manifested their contribution in different ways to pushing the collective consciousness towards understanding, the problems of that time period. And I think that, again, it's this idea of maintaining proximity, right? You shift the entire flock through just maintaining a proximity to the aligned individuals who have a same sense of purpose as you. And when you even think about like a wave moving, it's just maintaining, those relationships, maintaining however close I can be to someone who is also trying to progress, or however close I can be to someone who is progressing in the direction that I want to go. It's just about taking those, whatever shift you can make in that direction winds up moving the whole flock. And so that I would say that the civil rights movement, and just how strategic people were, the idea that you had the lawyers who were there to bail out the people who knew that they were going to put their bodies on the line to protest. You had, the educators there to educate the students whose parents were now in jail. You had the church members who were there to, contribute food and resources to maintain the flock as everyone was progressing forward and marching. I think that's the one that strikes my mind the most for that question.
Wow, that's so powerful, and such a thing to aspire to. Right? Can we take the best of the civil rights movement and bring it into our work? Not just the what of it, which remains so important, but the how, which is what you're describing. A question for Karen and Curtis that a few people actually asked. Talk to us about multi-generational mindset and practice. How do we keep it? How do we change it?
Karen, you want to go?
Coach, you can start.
Yeah, well, I mean, we are firm believers in the multi-generational nature of the work that we're doing. First and foremost, that we know when we're thinking about changing food systems, that doesn't happen in a year or 5 years or 10 years, that is generational work. And we also know that there is value in wisdom gained from lived experience. We know that people at different phases of their life bring a kind of diversity in terms of experience, in terms of cognition, in terms of just perspective. And so we do have to link arms and think about that as collective leadership, mentoring in all different directions. And at FS&E, we definitely talk about leadership as an emergent phenomenon. It is an emergent phenomenon. It's like velocity when you put parts of a car together. It's when you put a team together to pull off this kind of event. Where is leadership? It's embedded in all of you. And so, again, it's about thinking about the flows and the connectivity that make this flock fly, and trying to live into that. But Karen, add more about generations. You're all about it. Karen, you there? Karen?
While we're waiting for her, let me ask one more question, Curtis or Karen, if you're able to come back, which both Patty Curtis and Christina Wambald asked versions of, which is, please let us know, how are your food banks surviving during the pandemic and your gardens, and what can we do to support that?
All right, sorry, I can't get Karen back. I seem to have, she dropped off. Can you repeat?
Yes, of course. I was saying, tell us a little bit about your food banks and the garden. How, I'm sure they're being taxed right now. How are they surviving, and how can we support you? Several people.
Yeah, that's a great question. It varies from place to place regionally, frankly. Where I am locally in Western Massachusetts, actually, speak of emergence and emergent leadership, just a bunch of farmland was just put into a new farm to support the food bank. We just learned of an effort in Hartford, Connecticut, that's a member of our network, where she started a mutual aid effort of single mothers who are getting groceries to other single mothers. We've got in Rhode Island, the African Alliance of Rhode Island, which has long been working on farms for new Americans, immigrants, is seeing a proliferation of people looking to them as the teachers in these times. I think, you know, it is wise probably to reach out to the food banks near you and see, you know, what is needed. There is lots of need, and it varies by region. I think in terms of whether there is the backup of local food supply. But gardens are growing. Gardens are proliferating in these times.
I'm glad to hear that, and reassured. Billy, a last question for you, and then we'd love your last thoughts. Where can we learn from the animal and plant world and biomimicry about how we might rebuild with equity at the center?
Question. I think the beauty of studying, you know, biological systems is you get very humbled very quickly when you think about these things that have been around for millennia, and having figured out all of these problems that we tend to circle around and repeat. The ones that come to mind for me are ants and forests, and this article that, you know, we were talking about in the green room around how, you know, this relationship between, you know, this fungi and the roots of trees in a forest, and how, you know, trees who might have more access to sunlight in one area through this relationship are actually able to translate some of their excess nutrients to other parts of the forest where there might not necessarily be as much. And there's just this exchange of resources to maintain the overall community that's happening in these, you know, hundreds years old, you know, forests. So that would be one. And consider the ant and its ways is another thing that comes to mind. Ants are some of the most community-minded people or organisms that I can think of. And if any of you all have ever been in an environment where you've seen ants floating in a pond or in a river, it's also because they have locked arms so tightly that water, they become buoyant. And it's this, you know, I think between the ants and the trees, there's a lot of things that we can solve by just the simple rules that they use. Incredible.
Well, we could keep talking, I think, for a long time, but I know we have kept you as long as we have. My mom is a student of American Sign Language, and this is applause. I thought we could all join where we are to share our applause. And if folks want to share their applause in writing in the chat too, we'll share it with Curtis and with Karen and with Billy as well. So thank you so much for this, for the inspiration, for the realization that it is, what did you say? It's so adjacent, that the possible is right here. It was in us like the oak tree. It is adjacent to us. It is around us in trees with ants. It is not beyond what we can do. I'm going to close us out to bring us all together. So Billy, Curtis, and Karen, thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll stay and that we can continue to connect. I said to Frank that we're sticky folks, so you're in now. We'll consider you allies and friends forever, and expect to stay close. We hope you will. We'll keep learning with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm gonna close us out now, folks. So today is Earth Day. Hi. So I was saying, today is Earth Day. Were we to have been together in Pittsburgh, we would have honored the earth in our learnings and our actions. We did that today as well, yet without choosing it, we're also honoring the earth by our omissions, by not flying, nor driving, nor using disposable water bottles that we buy for convenience in the airport. I'm a mother of 3 who will be, by summer start, 8, 10, and 12 years old. They have spent more time than usual indoors in the last weeks, dreaming of lying on green grass and looking up at blue sky. Conscious of something I read when this began, which is in cities in China, there are kids who have seen the blue sky for the first time in their lives. Kids my kids' age, who had never before looked up and seen a blue sky. But the pandemic hit and our carbon emissions ground to a halt and the smog dissipated from above their heads. And they saw the blue sky and I thought, I have never felt more connected to their mothers. This moment has been a moment that can fuel our sense of connection. And then of course, in 100K10, we have nurtured exactly that capacity for connection across difference, for shared purpose and collective commitment that are the muscles we'll need to flex to address what remains, despite the past months, this century's greatest challenge, which is protecting our beautiful blue and green earth. It's not just the muscle for collective change that we're fueling, though, in 100K10. In our case, it's also the innovators themselves. The people who will come up with the solutions to our climate crisis are kids in their homes right now, and they're hoping to be inspired by STEM learning that matters. Whether that happens and they can address the climate crisis will depend on us and whether we produce for them the excellent STEM teachers that they need and whether we solve the underlying challenges that caused the shortage in the first place. That capacity for life that is unique to Earth, it's made possible by plants, which photosynthesize solar energy for their growth. The byproduct of that simple act is the oxygen that we breathe, and that enables all life. The virus we're confronting attacks our capacity to breathe. It has also, though, caused us to slow down and appreciate every breath that we can take. Every time we breathe, we connect with plants, breathing in the oxygen they produce. At the end of this energizing, incredible day, I'm going to invite us all to breathe deeply and keep still together. In Keeping Quiet, Pablo Neruda writes, "Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still for once on the face of the earth. Find a comfortable perch. Together, let's keep still and count to 12. Thank you for your breath, for your work, for this energizing and incredible day. Together, I know we will solve it." And now, over to Yasmin to tell us how to join the happy hour and continue engaging in Season of Summit. We've got everything in happy hour but the drinks and the food, so grab some of that as soon as she's done and come back to join us. I can't wait to catch up with more of you there. Thank you so much for the work that you do, for the selves that you bring to our shared and joint endeavor.
Talia, thank you so much. And thank you for going back. I think everyone appreciates it, and that was just so beautiful. I just have a couple things to share, and then I will let you go to happy hour. So what happens next? If you had a hard time choosing which small group conversation to go to today, don't worry. We are going to have lots more conversations during what we're calling our Season of Summit initiative, where we will continue to host conversations like these over the next few months, conversations similar to the ones we had today, additional or different ones that you want to have in the future. And then we're also going to have a platform for all of the partners who wanted to present at Summit today, but didn't have the opportunity to because of the current crisis that we're in. Thank you so much, everyone, for being on this experiment with us and for all of your grace today and for really helping us make this what it is. So many of you helped us in thinking about the design and thinking about whether and how to do this, and it couldn't have been a more beautiful day. So thank you so much for your partnership, and I hope to see you in the happy hour. Bye-bye.